Guys, snorkeling the 2021 Talon X. This is the same for any Talon. It's all the same shit. I'm going with a different design than I did on the other one for two reasons. I'm trying to minimize the number of connections used, and I'm also trying to run this factory cover here. The factory cover is primarily there to keep mud out of the intake, which from the factory is located up here. Once your air intake's up there, that's not required. But the other reason the factory cover is good is because it has like 10 different clips it ties into. And the factory cover makes this fender more rigid. I realized after removing it that with a fender flare on here, it needed the support of this factory intake cover to support the fender. So here's how I'm gonna do it. The reason I'm doing it like this is because this follows the path of the factory intake and it stays out of the way of the cover. Now, just a caveat, some people are making this work with 3-inch pipe, and some people are also using the factory intake piece some more. This is how I like to do it. I don't like the factory intake piece with the growths on it and everything like that. So this is how I'm gonna do mine. Mine other Talon ran great with 2.5-inch pipe, so I don't really think I'm gonna have an issue. This is kind of a sharp bend here, but you know, whatever. I think it's still gonna run just fine. So there's how it looks from there. That's how you get out of the fender. This piece right here is gonna eventually get replaced with a long 90, DME up to here, and there'll be one more piece up to there. So this is just starting to feel it out. Obviously I cut a bunch of different angles to start out with again, just to get this kind of figured out. You just start cutting, you got extra pieces, you'll figure it out. But if you don't want to do that, and you want to see how someone else did it before and cheat, this is how you do it. So I'm gonna pop this piece out for you. So that's all there is to it right there. So to make this piece, it's pretty simple. This is a U-pipe. I'll take it apart for you. This is a U-pipe that I cut a little bit past 90 degrees to see how it actually comes to 90, then past it. That helps you get the angle right. This is an elbow, and this is another piece of a U-pipe that's cut right at 90. So this is basically a 90. That's gonna get replaced with a long 90 right here. I was just figuring out, oh, shit, I scratched it. I was just figuring out where to cut this, how deep I wanted it. So now I'm gonna put that back together, take some measurements, mark this up and cut it. And the product will be, you'll have this sticking up. This is a little too long, but sticking up like that. That's what we're going for. So the idea with this one is we're going to follow the pipe a little better and have a little bit fewer connections. You know, the other one I had an S-bend right there. I'm trying to avoid having that S-bend and keep everything inside the cage, but still get it up into that same spot. You want it as high as possible. The part is, how do you seal it to the air box? So I'm gonna do this the same way I did in the last one. If you're confused, try watching the other video too. This is the end piece off the factory snorkel. That's actually the old other one. You just cut that off the end there with the table saw. You know that's designed to seal perfectly into the stock air box. That's why we reuse that. But you'll find that your pipe, I marked it, is a little too big to go in there, right? Or it's a little too small. So you need a spacer. So the spacer, this is a piece of a coupler. It used to be twice as wide. I'm not sure where the other half went. I just cut it with a razor blade. But this is a 2-inch coupler. You stretch it over the 2.5-inch pipe, and it gives you a nice tight seal in here once it's stretched over the 2.5-inch pipe. So I can't really do that with one hand. So that's how that looks stretched over there. Pretty nice fit. And now you've got to jam this sucker into this sucker. And it is a tight fit. The way I do it is I put a little bit of heat on this outside plastic piece, and then I spray just a dab of carburetor cleaner to make it slippery. Slam it in there, watertight seal, good to go. Anything else to that, you can see it in there as a spacer. And it actually had to heat the piece of pipe up with a torch to slip it over there, so now it's shrunk down and that's not going anywhere. If you're real paranoid, you could put some sealant there. I am not going to bother. All right, it's complete. It's a little simpler than I did it before. Not gonna say it's perfect, but I think I like how it came out. I did the same kind of thing where I hid it up in this little top corner. It did a really good job of keeping my air filter clean and keeping water and mud from splashing into the air box when I did crazy high-speed, low-drag shit. Plenty of airflow still, but it's well shielded. Then you got one clamp here. Eventually, this was gonna be flat against the roll cage, right? I'll put some kind of a strap here, probably maybe just like a big zip tie. I'm not gonna use this bracket again, not necessary. It's actually in there pretty good already. And then it comes into here, that's one solid piece of 90, comes in, there's one piece going out. 190 rubber right here into the air box. I put some tape on here and a zip tie just because I didn't put sealer, because I want to be able to take this apart if I need to adjust the length, and I didn't want dirt getting packed in there, so that's why I did that. But even without the tape and that zip tie, it's 100% seal, and that's your factory air box, boot, and clamp. I already tested it. The factory plastic cover right there fits up in there around it perfectly, so your fender is still fully supported and everything, and you got your snorkelage. So maybe a little bit lower flow than last time, because last time I had one smooth 90 coming out of the air box. This has an extra turn in it, but it lets you run the factory cover, and it's a little bit less joints and stuff. So I think it's well isolated. You can see that boot still wiggles, it's still in there flat, so I think it's going to be just fine. Before I put the cover on, I obviously need to snorkel the vent lines, and the ones back here you got to worry about. Right there, the transfer case, and right here, the rear diff. So that's what I'm going to do next, and then I'll put this cover back on, and we'll be good to go. You could do some other stuff here. A lot of people put those big, fancy snorkel cut tops on. What do you call them? The little diver down. I don't know. I like the fact that people all the time are like, dude, is that thing snorkeled? You can't see it. It's out of the way. It's not obnoxious. And putting it up in that corner makes it quieter because it's farther away from my head. So that worked out so good last time. You know, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. I wasn't going to change that part of it. It's also the easiest way to do it. Ended up with a ton of extra pipe, so just like last time, you could easily snorkel 2 machines with the amount of pipe you have here. So that's a pro tip. If you got a buddy, buy one set, you know, $50 snorkel for each of you. That's about 80 bucks. And you guys are gonna ask me for the link for this, and I can post it, and the link will be outdated in 2 days. Universal 2.5-inch boost tube setup. Make sure you get some elbows and some straights. And the rubber couplers, the elbows are nice, right? I end up using both of them, one up there and one down here. eBay search is your friend. Mr. T splice right here along the frame, away from the exhaust for the rear diff. Then it goes into a T right here. This is the transfer case bent line. That's a factory line. Goes into that T. Goes into this nice big line. Zip ties on all 3 sides. These fit tight enough. You don't really need zip ties. You probably should put them though. Nothing's tight, right? Plenty of loops. And then it comes up here, out by the roll bar. You wouldn't be able to see it if you didn't know what you were looking for. Zip ties right there to the seat post, and then it goes up in there. You see where it's sitting? Now, the reason you do that is because it's shielded. We're all about shielding. Installing the CA Design shift gate, which is a must-have if you ask me on a Talon. Also going to snorkel the gas tank vent, and it helps to pull all this off to get down in there. Pull that off, a bunch of little snaps. It's very easy. And then to get the shifter knob off, you just grab that sucker and you yank it off straight up, and then you install your shift gate. I complained to my first CA shift gate, didn't match the factory one as far as throw. They have re-engineered it, and now it's a pretty good match. You can see you get the same range of travel with the CA shift gate as you do with the plastic one. I had to modify my old shift gate, hoping to not to do that with this one. The benefit here is you can go straight from reverse to low, reverse to high, keep you from missing gears, and it's quicker. And when you're submerged underwater, boy, it makes it a whole lot easier to figure out what gear you're in. So someone mentioned to me that the Pioneer 1000s have some kind of a breather box down here. I need to put those in right there. Anyways, they have a breather box down here that could let water in. So I was wondering if the Talon had the same thing. So I traced the gas tank vent line, which you can see right down there, that gray line. It goes straight into the tank, and you can get to it by pulling out your seat frame. You can see it comes into the top of the fuel pump right here. To get this whole thing out, it's kind of a bear. It's all one piece, unfortunately. Didn't feel like taking all that off, so I just pulled out the seat frame with these 4 bolts, and that let me get access to what I needed to get access to see that there was no charcoal canister, diaphragm, anything like that. My Wolverine 850 had all that, and I deleted it. Talon doesn't seem to have it, at least not this model that was from Tennessee. So gas tank breather comes up to there. There's a coupler, or a, what do you call it, a barbed fitting. Goes into this line, goes up there, goes up the roll cage. Your gas tank must be on its own dedicated breather. Do not tee your gas tank in anything. The fumes will ruin the oil, etc. Okay. Then up here, you have a fan breather, and you have your front diff breather. You see it right there? That's your front diff, coming out your front diff. I teed those together right here. You see the T? Yep, there's a T. And they go into this bigger line, and they go up here. I wanted all my lines up the roll cage to be the same line, the same size, so I use this bigger line, and then it goes into here. To jam both these lines up in here without pinching them, I put a pry bar in here and kind of made that gap bigger so they wouldn't pinch them off. And they're nice, and they're up in here, and they're shielded. So that's gas tank, front diff, and fan. My coolant overflow is in the factory location. And you probably wonder why. Well, I don't want it spraying coolant on my passenger if it overheats ever. But you also don't want sand and water getting into your coolant system. So I'm going to install an inline filter right here. That way, if anything does get back into the coolant system, it'll be pretty clean water. And I don't have to raise that up and leave that in the factory location. I'm just going to install a little filter right here. I'm not going to install a one-way. That's the stupidest thing you could put on a coolant breather. Do not. If you have any questions, comment below. There's a decent chance I won't answer them. So get on the Mud Puppy Q&A Facebook page. And it's a page devoted to questions. That's why it's called a Q&A Facebook page. So she's fully snorkeled and ready to go deep. I really hope Honda corrected the issue people were having with these front universal joints. My far never had an issue, but I have had people complain about those caps flying off and it being pretty catastrophic. It's one of the few real problems with the Talon. That some people have that problem. I didn't have that issue. I did have some front driveline vibration. This seems to have it too. Maybe it's not phased right, but it's tolerable, so whatever. And my fan spins the right direction. I checked that as well. That was another early issue people had with the Talons. Also, stay tuned. Later this week, we'll be installing these Minty Weller Racing spring kit in my rear shocks. These springs look pretty stiff still, but hopefully they'll make a difference in the ride quality. This is going to make the biggest difference. Actually a true dual rate, where the top dual rate spring on here is pretty much bottomed out. So excited to get those on there. Also, we'll be doing a winch install. It'll be a different bracket, hopefully an improved bracket than my last one. So a lot of good Talon videos coming up. If you have a Talon, you better like and subscribe because I'll show you how to put your thing together right.